There's no point doing mining if what you are doing is not sustainable. And yet mining is intrinsically a wasting resource. So how can it be sustainable? It's really worthwhile deep thought about that one.
We started in Antalya in 2005 in Turkey, making a review of a set of indicators of sustainability for the mineral extraction industries. Then we, in the IMPC in Beijing, IMPC 2008, I believe, we ran 2 seminars. One seminar was asking a question, is mining sustainable? And then we invite a lot of NGOs that believe that mining, or believed in those days, or still believe that mining is not sustainable. And some other people that believe that mining is sustainable, and put them together to have this kind of neighborhood discussions, right? And see if some conclusions could be arrived out of that. We ran at the same time in Beijing, parallel to that, one in uranium mining. What are the problems of uranium mining that we are just discussing here, right? Besides the normal problems of mining and mineral processing, the problem regarding the radionuclides, substances that are radioactive and maintain during centuries their presence in the environment, and they have to be taken away in order to do not promote bad health locally and cancer and things like that. We, in Brisbane, in the IMPC in Australia, we developed 2 best practices of Australia, mainly because we did that with the University of Queensland, a joint venture regarding sustainable development. We didn't do no activity in this workshop, particularly in terms of a specific course or things like that, but only a section within the program dealing with those issues. And we are programming now in the next one in Chile to have a full-day seminar on best practices of the industry on sustainability issues.
Sustainability means that you don't do things to the planet that your children are going, or that you or your children are going to regret. But equally, if you consider working in a mineral processing plant, you should be able to go home at the end of the day just as healthy as when you arrived.
So sustainability is not a science per se, but it is a way to look into the future. It is a way that the human construct of sustainability made towards our vision to the future. Do we like to have a planet or even a universe that's not able or capable of being used and loved and being graceful to us? Or do you like that this universe, this planet, is something that is very joyful to live?
Where do you draw the line between development and degradation of environment? How do you answer such a question? How dear it is to have a good environment, one. How much do you accept that it will destroy your life as well as the life of your children? Two, how much you can appreciate without actually having felt it, right? So how do you balance the two?
Of course, the question is, how do you measure the greenness or benign nature of reagents, or how do you measure sustainability? The problem is that there is no bar to measure. I can measure my height or somebody else's height, but there is no measure for sustainability. I am reminded of the parable of 6 blind men looking at an elephant. The one which touched the tail thought the elephant is like a broom. The one which touched the leg thought the elephant is like a tree, and so on and so forth. That's what is happening in society. Each group, each company, each industry has its own definition. So we are talking in different languages.
Without really solving these environmental problems, we cannot really expand and expand and expand. That means build larger and larger industries. That's impossible.
At a technical level, there are several priorities. The energy priority is a high one. Another important priority is around not using or operating mineral processing operations while they are where there's little water to be used. Most mineral processing operations use a great deal of water. Some of the operations in various places in the world are in very arid, very dry zones, and so therefore processing techniques, especially for these dry regions, are important to be developed.
One of the most important research projects in Chile, which I am participating, by the way, is flotation in seawater. So we are finally forced to use seawater, which is available because it's a long country, 5,000 kilometers, so beaches and it's everywhere. And so we are finally going to use seawater in the mining operation, in the flotation process, instead of fresh water from the river or lake, which in this country does not exist.
To paraphrase Tom Friedman's, world has become not only flat but also small. Companies have become global, which introduces a lot of challenges. For example, you cannot use a reagent that may be accepted, for example, in India, but it may not be accepted in another country. So whenever you produce a reagent or a process, if you want to be globally serving, it has to meet the threshold values of all these countries, and that's not easy. For example, even in the United States, California has tougher rules than the other areas. But if you want to sell in California, then you better meet those standards. Arsenic, for example, even though the body can stand arsenic to some extent, there is a lower limit in California. So environmental standards are continuously changing, and it is a challenge for mineral processors not to use harmful chemicals such as cyanide, which is used in gold leaching, and also in the case of mineral processing, very often xanthate is used, and xanthate will decompose to carbon disulfide and other which are toxic. So I think it is very important to look for environmentally benign reagents.
So we have to, just example, in the flotation processes which we are using in mineral processing to separate some minerals, whatever, to produce concentrates, we very often use different reagents. 90% of them are toxic. We introduce them into water, which then very often goes back to lakes, rivers, and who knows where. So this is the very important challenge today, to eliminate these toxic components which we use as the reagents or additives, chemical additives in the flotation process, grinding process, dewatering process, and so on and so on.
I want the mineral processing to be composed of, to involve more of what nature is doing, meaning the microbes produce biosurfactants which can be used in mineral processing. Microbes act on our teeth. So nature, as I said, does it best. I would like that kind of thinking, mindset, where we think of nature and try to follow the nature. Nature is being kind to us. We have been in this planet. We think we own the property that you own. We don't. We are just tenants. And we dirty the planet, and the Lord gets angry, and you have more hurricanes and tsunamis and so on. We have to think to leave the place clean by following nature's methods, processes, and reagents. That's what I like to see incorporated into mineral processing and IMPC?
Today, when you build a new mine, you already have to plan what you will do with the mine when it is finished, when the mining process is finished, when you extract all the valuable components. And you already have to plan, and you already have to put aside enough money to recultivate this area and just plant some trees or grass or whatever to make it again hospitable. So yes, there are many challenges which are ahead of us.
The facts are that there are only two ways that we can get things from this earth. One is to grow them, and the other one is to mine them. There is no other way. And so we must find a convenient way without disturbing the earth or without disturbing the culture to extract those minerals, because otherwise we won't be able to move forward with many of the things that mankind hopes to achieve here, and to achieve it in the most least destructive way.
If I'm going to mine something, I have to minimize the masses that are extracted from earth to produce that particular commodity. And of course, this includes water. Water is a very important commodity or substance, let's say better, and implies not only processing, implies for ourselves, our good health, etc. So minimization of masses utilized, water included in the mineral processing. Minimization of energy. Energy is so scarce, energy is very expensive. Energy to be produced, you have to have the sources, be hydro, be solar, be thermal, be nuclear, but you have to have those sources, and you have to minimize the utilization as well as waste of energy. The third variable towards sustainable development in the mining sector is the minimization of pollution. The fourth aspect is maximization of social satisfaction.
Sustainability, you don't often hear people worrying about the local people, indigenous people, how they are affected. Ethics and societal concerns had to be included. That's not often included in the equation.
Have water available for the agriculture or for consumer in that particular locality, buying locally whenever possible, and get a good interaction with your neighbor or with your neighbors, with all the problems that are present in this good interaction.
And companies are aware of this now. So they're spending a great deal of time going in and preparing areas and people, and spending time with governments so that no big problems arise because of factors that weren't considered. Companies are spending much more time considering what the issues may be to make sure that it's a happy combination for both the country and for the companies that are looking to do this.
Mineral. It has three distinct features. One is it is very finite, site specific, and non-renewable. When once I use it, it's gone. That means we have so that's where this sustainability word comes. It becomes very important. It doesn't mean I produce more and exhaust everything, because as I said, it's non-renewable and finite. Then what will future generation will have it?
Into the future, reprocessing of wastes is going to be just as important in mineral processing as conventional materials. So you have your coal, you have your reprocessing of waste, you have your reprocessing of building materials and the like, as well as conventional mineral processing.
Unless you see waste as something which is as important byproduct as the main product. If you have a quality control on the waste, you can always find ways of mean of putting it back into societies to go closer to the closed cycle society, closed loop society, which is the ultimate goal. Everything can be recycled.
Just think about it, that of all the energy used in the big mining countries, such as China, India, Australia, Africa, 10% is used to crush rocks. And of that 10% that's used to crush rocks, the efficient usage of that 10% is minuscule. We're a long way away from optimization of energy that we consume to the actual energy that does the job that we want it to do. So energy minimization, new sources of energy, the concept of having stationary fuel cells on mining sites to power the sites so that they are not dependent on the national grid is an example.
Make sure that we have enough for us, but also for our children and grandchildren. They are not saying that we should give up something. If you follow Gandhi's philosophy, when he wanted to uplift the lower caste, he asked the privileged to give up something. Now, that kind of sustainability is what we have to look at. In other words, we don't need 3 TVs or 3 cars or 2 cell phones. We have to give up something, minerals and metals, so that our children and grandchildren can have a better life. So, but question is, how do you measure it? So we have been involved with all the chemical companies and mineral companies to generate what we call a green index. This was a collaborative teamwork between industry and academia, me at Columbia University, and the industry, academia, and also government. It's a collaborative work. So what we did was, for this collaboration, we did survey among all the industries. What are the criteria that are important to you? And then we generated what we call the spider diagram. It's a circular diagram. How much of the area is filled by green is a measure of the greenness. Then we ask each company, how do you weigh each factor to be important? Meaning, for some company, energy is important. They don't want to spend a lot of energy. If you are in a desert, water is important. So the weighting factor for each of these criteria is different. So taking all this into account, we have kind of a tunable green index. So that gives I think that gives my thoughts as to what the IMPC in the future should look at. A flatter global. Well, that's what they are doing here. They have done a good job in that regard.
So let's try to live in harmony whenever possible. And of course, conflicts will arise. Let's solve those conflicts whenever possible.